What's the creepiest slash most unexplained thing you've seen in broad daylight? I used to live on a farm, and one morning there was a full horse leg on our driveway. Like still had part of the hip attached and was fresh. We sprinted down to our horse paddock to find all our horses completely fine. We disposed of the leg and never got an explanation. Very creepy. This happened in Canberra, Australia, so there's no mountain lions or bears around here. I once saw a dog walk on two legs across a street. Scared the piss out of me. When I was young, me and my cousins found a bloody shirt in our woods. My cousins and their parents hunted, so we thought maybe it was from that. But then we found a Ziploc bag with shoes and shorts. All had to be from an extremely petite woman or an older kid. When we told our uncle about it, we got punished and weren't allowed to talk about it. I don't speak to them anymore, but really makes you wonder. It was 1984, I was 15 years old and was alone at my older sister's house. It was late morning, I had just got out of the shower, still wrapped in a towel, when I heard a noise outside. I looked out a window and watched a complete stranger tying the doorknob of the main entrance to the railing of the deck with a rope I used to walk the dog with. He then leaned a mop that was on the deck against the door. I called my sister, told her what happened, got dressed, got the heck out of the house through a different door, and hid in the bushes until police arrived. The house was somewhat remote with no close neighbors. Found out later the door he tied up was unlocked. No clue how long he had been lurking around before I knew of his presence. To this day we have no idea who that was and what his motives were. Beyond creepy, definitely unexplained. I was walking with a friend of mine in the city in broad daylight. A man was walking in tent decked fully naked with his wang fluttering into the wind. This shocked both of us so much our brains restarted, and it took us 20 seconds to actually process what we saw. When I was about 8, my parents, my brother and me were hiking somewhere in Austria when we came across the ruins of a medieval castle on a hilltop. A sign said that there was a cafe near the ruins, so we went up. The cafe was deserted, all the tables and chairs were toppled, and next to the building stood a brand new big Mercedes with a lot of bullet holes in the trunk and the rear window. The car was heavily armored. The rear window was so thick that the bullets hadn't even penetrated it. We turned around on the spot and got out of there as fast as we could. Back in the hotel, my dad reported to the police, but they dismissed it. Never knew what came of it. When I was a kid there was a field near my house in rural Florida that glowed rainbow colors. The grass had different shades of color all day long. That field got bought up and bulldozed decades ago for a farm, however. I believe there is a name for this phenomena, but I would never know how to go about googling such a thing. But this was around 2013 or so, and I was having a smoke in front of my apartment on the front steps in the middle of the day around noon or so. I got up to head back, and just for a few fleeting seconds, while looking at the building, it looked totally unfamiliar. I knew I lived there, I knew it was my home, I knew I had just stepped outside only 5 minutes previously, but my brain was giving me some kind of indication that I had never seen this place before, and that there was danger inherent. I just kinda violently wagged my head back and forth like an aggressive no gesture, and was immediately back to normal. But I'll never forget that moment. It was like my concept of reality had very momentarily just cracked. My family had the car packed up for a road trip because we were moving across the country from the PNW to the Rust Belt. We were heading to the highway to get out of town and had to take some weird access road to get there. On the way, there was some man holding a long barrel rifle to a woman's head, walking through a vegetable garden. He was holding it with one hand and had a cigarette in his mouth. The woman was crying. My mom didn't believe me. I was 14, I know what I saw. One time me and my mate were walking to our bus and we both look ahead to see a big centipede crawling on a girl's head just for it to disappear. When it got on the front of her face, me and my mate told her, but she always swears up and down it never happened. Maybe not creepy, but unexplained and just weird. A woman doing take eye on the hood of a car in a gas station parking lot in rural Louisiana. I was walking past a church one day when I was about 15, and standing in front of one of the graves was a cowboy dressed head to toe in pure white. He looked straight out of a movie. His hat, shirt, waistcoat, trousers and boots were also white, like an incredibly clean white, as if he'd only just put them on. He was white, had short brown hair, stubble and was an average looking guy. I kept staring at him, blinked and then he was just fucking gone. I live in the UK, so it was weird to see anyone resembling a cowboy anyway. I don't know if it was my mind playing tricks on me, but I could swear he was there. He looked so real. My dad, brother, and I went to a movie theater one day in Florida. Was around 4ish, so it was getting darker, but still light out. We went up to the front, where you buy tickets, and when we looked around there was absolutely no one in the movie theater at all. No employees, no other guests. We simply walked in, looking all around to try to find anyone we could to purchase a movie ticket, but could find no one else. All the movies in each of the theaters we checked were running, but with no one else inside. So we just sat down and watched a movie, then left without seeing anyone else the whole time. It was very surreal. I once had a dream I was walking solo down a familiar dirt path towards a wooded area. Side note, the path felt familiar to me in the dream. I had never been down this path before. As I walked toward the wooded area, the feeling of familiarity changed, and the path ended at an old abandoned cemetery under the tree canopy. The familiarity suggested the path continued, and the cemetery should not be there. I was drawn into the cemetery toward a specific grave. The detail was vivid. There was an old stone bench next to a sunken grave. The headstone had an angel on top. The remaining wing had a pine needle dangling off, hanging from a cobweb, drifting in the breeze. It was peaceful and quiet. I immediately woke up and felt like the dream was calling me back. I felt oddly connected. The jolt from waking up was so startling I decided to write the dream down. Fast forward a couple of years. I was considering buying a house with my girlfriend. After we reached a house we were considering, the realtor called and said she was running late. While waiting, we walked the outside of the house. Behind the house, we noticed a path past the overgrown grass going into some woods. To kill time, we decided to walk the path to the trees. While walking along and enjoying the sun on my face, I was hit with an intense feeling of déjà vu. I knew this place. As we reached the woods, there it was, the abandoned cemetery. It was the same cemetery in my dream. I told my girlfriend I'd visited this place in a dream and described specific details down to the pine needle. She thought I was trying to pull a stupid prank until she saw the sunken grave, missing wing and stone bench, and even the pine needle hanging off the angel's wing. She immediately walked back toward our car. The entire experience was a copy/paste of my dream with the exception of my girlfriend being present. Later that day, we were back at my house. She asked me how I knew all that detail. I'll let her read the dream I wrote down. I described the path, trees, cemetery, and weather perfectly. She refused to ever talk about the experience again. That was around 20 years ago. The experience still haunts me to this day. A man with his pants and underwear around his ankles, waddling from the back of the streetcar to the front of the streetcar, while people escaped in horror out the front door, and also, someone else threw a tangerine at the streetcar as it finally pulled away. I was around 10, 12 years old when I was walking home with my family. My two brothers ran ahead, while my parents and little sister were bringing up the rear. I was in the middle when I got this urge to look up ahead. I had been fiddling with my iPad, and honestly I don't know what I saw. It was a very tall, probably 7-9 feet best guess, lanky figure shrouded in all black. It walked slightly hunched, and almost like it had a slight limp, but it moved fast. It crossed the street from our neighbor's house and passed in front of our car where it just disappeared. I should have been able to see it based on its height, but it literally just vanished. I ran and searched all around and in our car but found nothing. To this day I can't explain it, but I was in my right mind and know what I saw. Just wish I had some answers.